The group that sponsors this is Alpha Lambda Delta, which I'm lucky enough to be one of the advisors of. And we started this is our 5th year, if I can remember everybody, starting with Theo, Betsy Squibb, Tom Eastler, Rob Lively, and now our speaker tonight. I'm introducing Vince Vanna, one of the officers of Alpha Lambda Delta, is going to introduce her. He is an elementary ed major with a math concentration.
Well, what to say about Cathy? Well, hello everyone. I am Vincent Vanna, in case you don't know. I'm the Vice President of Alpha Lambda Delta, the National Honor Society Club here. Tonight we have a wonderful professor providing us with the last lecture, Cathy Wimett. Cathy Wimett has been called so many things throughout her teaching career. Nothing bad, of course. A colleague, a friend, a teacher, a professor, a doctor, and most importantly, a giver of knowledge. I've had the honor of meeting Cathy on my first day here at UMF. I was greeted by a respectful, heartwarming, and wise doctor of education. I've had the privilege of taking 2 amazing classes with Cathy. She is always prepared and is a very knowledgeable professor. One thing I found about Cathy, she hates contractions in writing. And she hates the word a bunch. Cathy is a very wise person and professor, and she will always tell you a story or experience that will assist you in your endeavors. She is always lending a hand too. She will help you with schoolwork, assist with finding your classes to take for next fall or next spring, help you study for the practice tests, which is very big, and she'll take time out of her own day just to talk with you. Cathy will surely be missed in the community, in the education field, on campus, and of course, by all the students she has taught here at UMF. So without further ado, here's your last lecture speaker, Cathy Wimett.
Thank you, Vince. You're pretty sweet.
Thank you, Vinny, and thanks to the students in Alpha Lambda Delta. I get this a little farther away. For this opportunity to, oh my goodness, I just looked up. Thank you for coming. For this opportunity to address the UMF community. Thank you for coming to tonight's last lecture. I know how much work we all have to do right now. So I'm doubly grateful to see you here. My working title is 46 Years of Wonder, Worries, and Wishes. However, as I sifted through 46 years of teaching, I seem to have settled on the theme of safety. I'll let you be the judge at the end whether I stuck to my theme. A formal lecture is not my typical style of delivery, so I welcome your questions and your heckling, Claire. I'll even try to answer those questions if you have any. It was a dark and stormy night. Or, 67 years ago, I was born in a log cabin on a dark and stormy night. Or, in August of 1969, I spent a little time on Max Yasgur's farm in Bethel, New York. I didn't have a clue about what I was getting into when I headed to the Woodstock Music and Art Fair. Did you know it was called the Art Fair? Not me. A year later, in August of 1970, I started my first teaching job by attending the first of many professional development experiences. The experience lasted a week, a very long week. I had been hired to teach 4th grade at the Dearborn School in the Orchard Park Housing Project in Roxbury, a section of Boston, Massachusetts. Again, I didn't have a clue about what I was getting into. The professional development experience focused on a new reading program, Words in Color, the first in a long line of efforts to make one size fit all in education. Its creator assigned colors to the 44, give or take, individual sounds in the English language. Many of the colors were shades of pinks and reds. Many others were shades of green, all on posters with black backgrounds. There were 2 major problems with this program. First, all the shades of red and green don't work for people who are colorblind. Secondly, most of my 4th graders had already learned the fundamentals of reading. I was expected to start all over again with P, M, T, and short A. That's not a bad place to start with kindergartners and 1st graders, but it's a terrible place to start with 4th graders. It was a silly mess. My 4th graders were an interesting mix of children. Approximately 15 were in 4th grade for the first time and had never repeated a grade. Of the remaining 10 students, half were repeating 4th grade or had previously repeated a grade. The other 5 were either repeating for the 2nd time or had already by the time they saw me. They ranged in age from 9 to hormone-crazed 13. I clearly had a multi-age classroom, but it was simply called 4th grade. I had graduated from a small liberal arts college with a major in English and a minor in elementary education. I had 6 weeks of methods and 6 weeks of student teaching. My student teaching supervisor was frightened by the 8th grader who held his cigarette lighter behind her heavily sprayed French twist beehive hairdo. He ignited the lighter and he put it away when I told him to do so, but she'd seen it. And she left quickly, never to return. I was not at all prepared to teach, and I was hands down the world's worst first-year teacher ever. Guinness? Yes, I win. Guinness, yes. There was another complication. I am white. All of the children in my class were African American. I wanted to be respectful, and so I constantly wrestled with what I should and should not say and should not do. I kept telling myself that I did not have the right to tell them how to behave or what to do. I had no effective classroom management plan. I had no support from the administrators in the building, if they were even out of their offices. I had no support from the secretary or the custodians. The custodians union was the strongest union in the Boston Public Schools. We were allowed in the building by 7:30 a.m. and had to be out by 3:30 p.m., except on Fridays or when there were Bruins games when we had to be out by 3. Again, I didn't have a clue. I was a first-year teacher without the education or experience that UMF teachers have. And I was alone in that building. I needed to work. I needed to figure out how to sail this ship called 4th grade. But I thought I didn't have the right to impose my values, my expectations on my students. It was 1970. The culture of the time was influenced by the Vietnam War or conflict, the Civil Rights Movement, the 1968 Democratic Convention, plenty of peace and love, and so much more. I was sure that a naive white girl from Vermont did not have the right to teach African American children, but there I was. Fortunately, something shifted in me. During the spring of that abysmal first year of teaching, the light finally dawned over this marble head. It was not about whether or not I had a right to teach my students. It was that I had a responsibility to do so. It wasn't about me. It was about them. I had a responsibility to be in control, to keep the students safe. They needed to know that I was in charge so they did not have to jockey for position. Well, there was this one 13-year-old who kept jockeying a lot, but that's a whole different topic. Students needed to know that I was in control, that we had a schedule and would stick to it, that I had a plan for teaching academic skills so that they would eventually not need me. See, I think the goal of every teacher is to not be needed. That revelation changed everything for me. I had a responsibility to keep my students safe, physically and emotionally, so that they could concentrate on academics. I believed then, and I still do, that academic competence can lead to confidence. Being confident is another way to feel safe. In preparation for tonight, I look back on 46 years of teaching, 4 with 4th graders in Boston, 13 with children with special needs at a middle school in Walpole, Mass., 2 with children in a psychiatric hospital in Chicago, and 27 with college students, 8 in Chicago and 19 here at UMF. See, this is where I stayed the longest. I remembered students, colleagues, families, administrators, and coaches. Some stories really are wonderful. Some are full of worry. And others help me know what I wish for, what I want for students and teachers. I'm going to tell you 3 of those stories. The first is about Josie. The second is about Dick Sullivan. And the third is about you. Story 1, Josie. Josie was a 10-year-old 4th grader at the Dearborn School in Boston. Josie was my student during my 2nd year of teaching, one of many students I remember clearly from those early years. Josie was intelligent and quite capable, but she was full of rage. Sometimes Josie stood on the top of her desk and threw a tantrum. She screamed and cried and cursed, and her curses were quite creative. There was no guidance counselor in the school. No one was going to help me. Josie did not welcome having anyone near her when her tantrums were in full force. But as long as no one approached her, she did not strike out at any of the students or me. We all learned to wait while she raged. After plenty of trial and error, I realized that if I let Josie get rid of some of that anger, she would calm down. But the children realized something too. As Josie quieted, one of the children, and not always the same one, went over to her, offered her a hand, helped her down from her desk, and asked her to come sit with them to do their work. Josie always accepted the children's offers, and we moved on. Those 4th grade children were wonders in many ways. For one, they kept Josie safe in our classroom. Then it was my turn. One day, Josie's mother came to the classroom door, stinking drunk, with a knife, looking for me. My only thought was to get her away from the children. I didn't want anyone to get hurt, and I didn't want Josie to be embarrassed. Later, I realized that all the children lived in the same housing project. They all knew Josie's mother. They weren't a bit surprised to see her drunk and with a knife. Nevertheless, I had to get her away from that classroom. I went into the hall, closed the classroom door, and started backing toward the large, open, winding staircase that led to the 1st floor and the principal's office. Not that he was helpful. Josie's mother yelled incoherently at me all the way to the 1st floor. I didn't care. I just wanted her to follow me. It was the only chance we had. I walked backwards down those stairs, hoping Josie's mother would keep following me, and hoping and predicting that I could dodge the knife if she slipped down the stairs. When we got to the first floor with no mishap, the vice principal was actually there and took over. That was wonderful. Everyone was safe. Story 2, Dick Sullivan. I worked at the same junior high middle school, we morphed, for 13 years. In the early years, Dick Sullivan was the vice principal. Dick was an excellent detective and interrogator, skills a vice principal needs, especially in a middle school. He was often the nurse also, 2.5 days a week, when our nurse was at another school. He thoroughly cleaned the supply closet every year by himself. He did not expect the secretaries to do that. He did it. He was a very intelligent, wise, and kind man, and as I said, a skilled interrogator. Fortunately, Dick Sullivan became principal when the not-so-kind guy retired. Dick was an administrator who kept his teachers safe, and I am forever grateful for his support. Once I became too invested in one of my 7th graders. When I was giving too much energy to Tommy and too little to my other students, Dick Sullivan firmly but kindly said no to me when I most needed it. No, you can't do that. You need to do this. That no was exactly what I needed. It was a gift to be told that it was time to adjust my priorities. I felt my entire being relax when hearing that no. Dick saved me from myself. On another occasion, after I had called social services to report an incident of neglect and abuse, Dick found me in my classroom after school and told me to get out of the building. The mother had been contacted by social services. She had called him. She was very angry, and she was on the way to school to have it out with me. Dick told me to get out. I had done my job, and now he would do his. Again, he kept me safe. Together, we kept the mean music teacher from eating the X-Lax laced brownies that one of the middle school students had made for her going away party. The music teacher was leaving, thank goodness, in the middle of the year. She was really mean to the students, but we still saved her and anyone else who might have eaten those brownies. Story 3, the UMF community. Boy, did I have to edit this. It just went on and on. From the get-go, UMF has been a place where I have felt safe and where I see that safety, physical, emotional, and academic safety, matters. Eileen and I felt visible and safe as a lesbian couple from day one. Thank you for that. It has been such a wonderful gift. So many people on this campus keep students and each other safe because they strive for accuracy, offer counseling and compassion, provide tutoring, teach what is important in a way that students can learn, provide residence hall and campus-wide programming, and generally keep the wheels in motion, especially Sandy Lord. I appreciate all that everyone does for us. We would not be UMF without the Merrill Center, the Health Center, Upward Bound, the Admission Office, the Student Support Center, Student Life, Mentor Library, the Technology Commons, the Learning Commons, Sweat Winter, Athletics, the FRC, Facilities, and have I missed anyone? I really don't want to miss anyone. I'm grateful for all the programming, support, and care everyone creates in all the corners of this campus. At this moment, I'm particularly grateful to the science and social science faculty and others who work so hard to nurture the new heating plant and who strive to keep the environment in their sights and ours at all times. I'm grateful for the creative, dedicated faculty on this campus who keep dreaming up new ways to teach and learn. I'm grateful to my colleagues who first welcomed me into the department, now division, of early childhood and elementary education. Marcia Nash, the best of the bunch. Ralph Granger, I'll get to him later. Betty Beach, Well, Betty didn't really talk to me for about 18 months, but once she did, I knew I'd passed a big test. Betsy Squibb, Cathy Yardley, who's been there from the beginning, and Steve Godomsky. Steve started really talking to me the same week Betty did. I thought I was having an out-of-body experience. Felt like Steve Martin, their new phone book is here. I have great respect for the way so many people at UMF do their jobs because they bring out the best in all of us. I want to mention 3 in particular. Joe Tootles and I have had many conversations about keeping UMF students safe and about UMF future teachers' ability to keep their children safe. I once worked with Joe to figure out the best way to handle a very nasty situation in which one student cyberbullied several other students in our classes. I also worked with Joe when a student was at a breaking point because she had been awake for more than 48 hours, keeping guard on a friend who was suicidal. I watched the stress roll off Jenny's shoulders when she finally accepted our no. No, she would not stay in class that day. No, she would not go to practicum the next day. Instead, she would get her friend to his parents. Someone else was slated to drive, thank goodness. Come back to UMF and go to bed. No, she would not go to school to tell her practicum teacher that she would not be in the next day. Joe would take care of it. I watched the stress roll off her shoulders just like it rolled off mine when Dick Sullivan said no to me. Joe kept Jenny safe. I watched Ralph Granger work for hours and hours setting up his travel courses. Well, I didn't really watch, but I did get detailed reports from time to time. Because of Ralph's attention to detail, students got the best prices Ralph could find, a clear, accurate itinerary for themselves and their families, and a set of 4 cell phones to use in Europe. All 4 phones had the, am I right, Megan? All 4 phones had the numbers of the other phones taped to their backs. That way, students could explore on their own in small groups, but always be able to contact Ralph and their classmates if necessary. Ralph kept our students safe by attending to all the details. In a very different way, Deborah Overstreet keeps our students safe because she is such a good teacher. She gives students a gift at the beginning of each semester. The clear, simple rules of engagement in her courses. Then she follows those rules without deviation. Students feel safe with Deborah because they can depend upon her and her rules. They can relax because expectations are clear. So they can devote their energy to learning, and learn they do. With Deborah, what you see is definitely what you get, and that's what makes her students feel safe and accomplished by the end of the semester. I could go on and on about the people here, but I won't. I do, however, have some worries and wishes for UMF. I worry that the UMF community needs to practice safety drills. Having managed to get all of my 4th graders safely out of the classroom when Ronnie Hextall lit it on fire in 1973, I value safety drills. I wish we had some safety drills here. There's nothing like muscle memory in a crisis. I worry about all the testing K-12 students and UMF education majors endure. I wish that less time and money were spent on testing, so more time and money could be spent on learning, innovative programming, field trips, productions, gardens, and fabulous learning materials. I wish Rise Up were less of a hoop and more of a support for us to stay healthy and safe. Though students just sit back and say, thank goodness I don't have to do this. Right now, Rise Up is a math problem. How many 10-minute telephone coaching sessions does it take to get the discount? If Rise Up were not in the picture, could everyone automatically pay less and not need to hustle for discounts? Could employees spend their time more productively? I have not yet figured out how Rise Up actually makes us healthier, but God knows I've tried. I wish I could feel confident that Rise Up is not a scam. Methinks the emperor is wearing no clothes. I wish potentially useful electronic tools were not thrust upon us, often in sets, with little to no training and few to no available humans to turn to who really understand and can explain the systems. I'm talking about Concur and Higher Touch here. They do not make me feel safe. Maybe I'm too old to get the hang of them, but maybe I understand them perfectly, and they actually are more aggravating than helpful. How much do they cost? How much do they save? How long should employees have to wait for reimbursement? How much do these tools help? How much stress do they cause? I know the answer to the last question. I wish that new edicts connected to advising did not surface when pre-registration is well underway. There is nothing about that timing that respects students or advisors. And so that doesn't make us feel safe. That makes us feel attacked. I worry too that many of my colleagues feel overwhelmed by all the tasks connected to all the tools. I appreciate all that we are able to do with technology, but I worry about how much time we spend entering data. How much better would it be if we could spend that time planning, preparing, and reflecting on the major work of this institution? Teaching and learning. I wish for a pendulum swing away from the intense focus on assessment and record keeping to a healthier medium that allows teachers and students to breathe and learn while also keeping track of students' progress. Despite these worries, I wouldn't have traded one day of my time here at UMF. I wish only the best for UMF students, faculty, and staff. I have much hope for the future because of the people who study and work here. Thank you all for 19 years full of wonders, worries, and wishes. As I leave, I know I will not miss grading. I know I will not miss meetings. I know I will not miss UMF basketball because I'll be there. However, as I leave, I know I will miss you.